I am the Assistant City Attorney. Sorry for your wait.
No problem.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Constantine, it looks like you have been charged with violating the Land Use Compliance Code and using existing land in a way that was not certified to be used, listing of permitted principal use permits, and customer obligation to, what is this?
Contact 811 for...
utility lines before digging or drilling.
Yep.
So, we have an offer for you. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to go over that, you're welcome to.
So I went by this morning. I see you've removed everything except for the tree branches.
I wasn't cited for the tree branches. I
will
will remove them on May 31st because that's when I have it scheduled to remove. So it can't be done sooner than that. It takes time to do things. So.
Okay, those being stacked up out there are a fire hazard.
The whole trees were a fire hazard. That's why I cut them down. Several of them were dead. So I don't know what you want me to do about that. You have to schedule work to be done. It takes time to get work done. I'm sorry it doesn't adhere to your schedule, but that's just the way it is.
Okay. So were there any other conditions that were in violation when you went out there today?
No. As of today, there's that, and then some of those poles those poles that are put in the ground have got to be removed.
So, and that's under the utility obligation?
Part of it. The other is the land use.
Okay. All right, here's the 811 locate request, which was done before I was cited.
Okay. So it looks like you're handing me an 811 positive response ticket for April 9th. You were cited May 19th.
No, it was the day after. The
April 10th. Oh, April 10th.
10th, yeah.
Did you show this to code enforcement when they came to your home?
No, because I didn't have the final report. Okay. That was the final report. So.
Okay, did you want to see this? I don't know what that is. And then it looks like there were just tree branches, which you were saying you were not cited for.
So the locate was called in on the 9th. They didn't come out and put flags or paint down until the 11th, which I did state that if you provided that you had actually called them, that I would dismiss that charge, and I'm willing to do that. However, in the future, now that you call them, you can't start digging until after you actually have your report.
Understood.
We'll dismiss this charge upon proof.
Correct.
And then the tree branches, which one does this go under, if any?
Debris, so the outdoor storage. As a matter of fact, I believe...
Right here?
Yeah.
So what would you like to do about that? This is a deferred sentence with a fine of $1,000 with $500 suspended, and a cease and desist for all of the violations. It seems like you corrected everything except for tree branches.
Which I was not cited for.
You were not. Well,
and again, I mean, a little bit of reasonableness here,
yeah.
Because I was trying to prevent the fire hazard.
Right.
All the trees around there are pretty much dead. They're all. It's a full-on fire hazard out there. So a little understanding would be in order. And plus, so I don't want to have the understanding that because I removed all that stuff, I'm in compliance with the summons. I did nothing wrong. Okay, absolutely nothing wrong, and I can cite it in the code. Okay. So if we need to go to trial, that's fine. But I did absolutely nothing wrong.
Okay, let's take a minute. It seems like the offer is a deferred sentence to give you an opportunity to cure anything. You removing trees and things like that.
Okay, yeah, yes, I will take care of that. But okay. As far as removing the culverts and the fencing, I totally disagree with the So maybe we need to go to trial.
An admission of guilt.
I won't. No, not guilty.
That's right. So the offer right now on the table, it was to give you additional time to complete everything. But it sounds like you're saying that you're not guilty, and therefore you will not be paying any kind of fine or anything.
No, I will not. The thing is, I would like some reasonableness and time to remove the branches, okay? And then the leftover pole, I'm sure there's a few leftover poles that I didn't catch.
Mr. Constantine, how many times have you been here?
None.
None. This is your first time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to set you over for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Give me time to make sure that I've looked into this thoroughly. Give you time to do whatever you feel you need to do.
Okay, so there's some other information that you need to know as well, because the code enforcement officer refuses to listen to me, okay? So first off, I was doing this work under section 1703060, irrigation ditches. So the only reason I removed those culverts is because my design was denied by the Chilcott Ditch Company. Okay, so that's the only reason I removed all of that equipment and the culverts, not because of this summons.
Okay.
So, all right, so I just want to make that clear. I am authorized, I have a prerogative to work on the irrigation ditch as long as the design is approved. And I'm working through that right now. So I removed those because there was no chance of them approving that.
Okay.
So under this section, I am permitted without any site development plan.
Mm-hmm.
These uses are allowed without a site development plan. Okay?
I hear your point.
Okay, so the second thing about the fencing. Okay, so are you aware that there are hundreds of properties that are unplatted? Mine has a plat, so I had a proper boundary done on it. Unplatted, undeveloped land that have fences around them. So has the code enforcement cited these hundreds of properties? Because they exist in Fountain.
Mr. Constantine, I do understand. I look at cases on an individual basis. I can't make a decision based upon what is done with other properties. I just take into account everything that's happening with you and how that relates to the code. Now, I will take into account Tish's perspective, but I certainly am going to take into account yours, and I'm going to give us all 2 weeks to assess everything.
Okay.
I haven't had an opportunity to look deeply into your case. I do apologize.
No problem.
I did write down notes from what you've done. I hear that Tish went out there this morning and most everything has been resolved. So maybe in 2 weeks this will no longer be an issue.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, but I just want to make it very clear.
Yes.
When my design is approved for the new culvert, I will be installing it without a development plan because it is not required. Okay?
Understood.
And I've wasted my time with this because the code enforcement officer refuses to read the code and acknowledge, okay, I was wrong. I should have said, hey, you don't know your code. But you know what? The code enforcement officer does not know their code. I am authorized to install irrigation ditches as long as it's approved by Chilcott Ditch Company.
Okay, and I do have another case. I will say that Officer Cronulla you've been cited under a different section of code, and she may have a different perspective. She doesn't have to prove her case right now in front of you.
Okay.
But I will talk to her and make sure I get clarity in what her perspective is, and then I'll come back and make sure that you and I are communicating clearly.
Okay, and so regarding the fencing too, so one of the other uses that's allowed under this code is parks and open spaces. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking maybe I wanted to set this up as like a dog park because it is a nice open area for dogs. There's a long run to do things like that. It is not required to have a development plan to do that. So if I set up a dog park, why can't I have a fence to keep the dogs in? Okay?
Well,
okay, so
separate section of code that may apply to some of the things that you're
I understand that. And I'm sorry if I'm being upset about this, but I have been here for 4.5 hours.
I know.
Okay?
I'm sorry. I am sorry. It's been a day.
I know, and I know it's not your fault. I know it's not your fault.
It's partially my fault.
It would have been better to schedule this, but my stance is I am not guilty, and I am not going to pay the fine, and let's go to court.
Okay.
Let's test it.
Can you give me 2 more weeks before
Sure.
you decide if you're going to plead not guilty?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to go, I'm just going to ask the judge for 2 more weeks, and we may come to an agreement that you are happy with, and then at that time, if you don't agree with my offer or whatever it is that I choose to do, I have absolutely no objection to you saying that you're not guilty and would like to go to trial.
Okay, great.
Just give me a little bit of time. Hopefully it'll be much faster in 2 weeks. And I am sorry about your wait here today.
No problem.
So I'm going to request for another court date on June 2nd. I'm going to give this to the court clerks. They're going to give you another court date. And
If that doesn't work for my lawyer, can I get a continuance on it? Because I don't know if that date's going to work.
Do you have a lawyer?
Yes, I do, but I need to...
Okay, do you actually have one right now? Because I was not allowed to talk to you if you have a lawyer, and I need to make a note. Maybe.
Okay, well, I mean, I've been in discussions with the lawyer,
Okay.
and, you know, if this goes to trial, I want to use the lawyer.
Okay, understood. Yes, if that date doesn't work for you, you just call us and we'll get a date that works for you and your lawyer. But your
Okay.
lawyer knows that he'll have to enter a form called an entry of appearance, and once we get that, we'll get a date.
Okay.
For him,
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so
All right.
just go to the window and get your next court date.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Carlson.